Guys, I'm gonna take off my pants. Ready? Oh! I'm wearing 2 pairs of pants. I thought maybe for once I would break the mystique. You never know what a YouTuber is wearing down there. You don't even know if they have legs. So I thought I'd let you in on that secret. Also because I'm so chilly. Do you want to know another secret? I am surrounded by hospital bills from when I got my appendix removed. I'm gonna be in a medical debt. Hi there, welcome. My name is the Antichrist, hence why I love throwing your little heads for a loop when you click on one of my videos. My agenda on this earth is to signal the end of time, of course, but also to talk about horror movies. So if you love horror movies and you love ridiculous shenanigans, then click subscribe, obviously. Also click the like button and the notification bell, that way you never miss the next video. I'm kind of getting back to my roots recently. I started this channel 5 years ago, mostly doing reviews of like classic horror franchises. In the past couple years, I've really strayed from the light. So today we're just having good, clean, old-fashioned fun. I have a bracket thingy and we're gonna do like a battle of the horror movie villains. I just Googled horror movie bracket or something, and this was one of the first ones that came up. Shout out thereitispod.com. Never been to your website, but thank you for this graphic. My friends over at Sledgehammer Horror also do this every single March. I'm embarrassed to say I have never attended one of these March Madness shows, but it's a great idea. I'm sure other horror YouTubers have done it, but this is my first time. Depending on how much time I take to deliberate who would whoop the other's ass in today's game, I might do a second round of this and choose my ultimate favorite. Now that is based on this specific bracket, so were things to be rearranged, of course that would change. But let's get into round 1. This one should be the easiest, right? Because we just gotta pick off all the weaklings. Jason Voorhees versus The Fly. It's been several years since I've seen The Fly. Jason Voorhees can literally die, come back to life, get all types of cut up, and he still just keeps going. Seth Brundle, like, is literally just so goopy and falling apart. He doesn't seem to be the most sturdy. He has wings, right? Jason Voorhees would literally just pull those right out of his back like a child playing with a fruit fly. So that's Jason, obviously. Next up we have The Thing versus Candyman. Candyman has abilities that are beyond my comprehension, so I'm inclined to say Candyman. Could The Thing somehow trick Candyman and ultimately infect Candyman? To my understanding, Candyman is more paranormal, so like, no. I'm gonna say Candyman. Pinhead versus the Babadook. It's also been several years since I've seen the Babadook. The Babadook is just a metaphor for depression and grief. That being said, the Babadook is a very kind of metaphysical thing. Then again, so is Pinhead. But to me, they're not even close. I mean, Pinhead is just so fucked up. Yes, the Babadook comes at you during your worst moment, but Pinhead doesn't care what state of life you're in. Grief also is a necessary evil. Experiencing the bounds of pain and pleasure is not. I'm gonna say Pinhead. Now the Xenomorph versus, it just says Tremors. I guess that's a good succinct way to put it. The alien would mollywop those worms. Like, I'm sorry, that's not even close. The worms are bigger, but if they took one bite of an alien, then their whole face would dissolve. Those worms were also intelligent, but nowhere near the intelligence of the Xenomorphs. Dracula / Nosferatu versus Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Creature from the Black Lagoon just wanted to be loved. Dracula can be at times very heartless, and I would imagine is stronger than the creature. The creature's big heart would get in the way. And also it's like, are we talking about Bela Lugosi? Are we talking about Bill Skarsgård? That would kind of make it depend, but overall, I'm gonna say Dracula. The next one, Zombies versus Jaws. I don't even really know what that means because there are so many different kinds of zombies throughout horror history. So the question is, could zombies beat up a shark? I don't feel like zombies could swim. And also, if the shark bites into the zombies, then would the shark get infected? I need more context here, I think. I feel inclined almost to like just eliminate them both. I'll say would I really say zombies? I feel like because they always travel in hordes, particularly if they're fast moving, then they would just rip apart the shark. I feel like they would have the strength to do that. They definitely lose some numbers along the way if Jaws is gnashing and stuff. But if a small town sheriff is able to blow up that shark, then I think zombies could rip it apart too. Wolfman Wait, Wolfman slash werewolf. Those are like different things to me. If we're talking about Wolfman versus Invisible Man, I actually haven't seen the original Invisible Man. I've only seen Lee Whannell's take. So, okay, if we're talking about Lee Whannell's versions, that Invisible Man versus that Wolfman, I'd definitely give it to Invisible Man. Wolfman is stronger and more feral, but the Invisible Man is just much more intelligent. He also had a lot of brawn. He kind of was unreasonably strong. Frankenstein's monster versus the Mummy, this is just so easily going to Frankenstein. And before anybody corrects me about not calling it Frankenstein's monster, Antonia Carlotta on Universally Me has a great video detailing why it's okay to call the monster Frankenstein. My favorite reason being that he is technically like the son of Dr. Frankenstein, so he would have the same last name. It's probably what's on his government records. Yeah, that one's not close, so I'm gonna say Frankenstein. So who moves on the left side of the brackets? Jason Voorhees, Candyman, Pinhead, the Xenomorphs, Dracula, zombies, the Invisible Man, and Frankenstein. Moving on to the right side, we have Freddy Krueger versus Damien. I know that Damien has tried to rip off my whole thing about being the Antichrist, but Freddy Krueger himself is also a demon, and because Damien is inhabiting a human body, I do think that Freddy Krueger would have the upper hand there. Now, maybe once he gets inside Damien's dreams, the devil would kill Freddy because the devil has more power than a demon, to be sure. Freddy Krueger never truly dies. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Freddy. Pennywise versus Jack Torrance. I mean, well, okay. It depends which version of Jack Torrance Pennywise meets. If you met him while he was kind of slightly sane, then I would say, well, easily, I would give it to Pennywise. But when Jack is all types of crazy at the end of the movie, I feel like he would out crazy Pennywise. Is this a wild thought? Are you walking with me on that? Jack Torrance could definitely evoke the deflated ballsack Pennywise. Because at that point, when he's deteriorated so much, I just don't think that Jack Torrance really fears anything. Once you're cool killing your wife and kid, I think you're set. I think most of your fears they've taken a hike. Moving on, we have Pazuzu versus Carrie. Well, this is a tough one because are we talking about what if Pazuzu possessed Carrie? Or when I think versus, it's more of a face-off situation. That's also why Freddy Krueger versus Damien was kind of hard. I'm envisioning like Carrie versus possessed Reagan. In which case, when it comes to just making a bed float up and rock around a little bit versus killing almost an entire gym full of high schoolers, making cars flip, I'm gonna give it to Carrie. I feel like she could definitely exorcise some demons as well. I don't really know how telekinesis works, but if she can move things with her mind, then maybe she can move the essence of Pazuzu out of a little girl. I don't know. Chucky versus Samara Morgan from The Ring. But this just... Chucky does have the supernatural element of voodoo on his side, or, you know, the movie's version of voodoo. So he's got a little bit of supernatural power on his end. Samara Morgan is more than a ghost. Her whole backstory reveals that she was always, you know what? She has a lot of similarities to Carrie. Between the two of them, I don't know. Because Chucky would try to do his thing where he has these like witty retorts and try to throw her off. But by the time we see Samara in The Ring, when she's already all dead and ghosty and stuff, she's not speaking. You're not having a conversation. She's just coming for you and she's not going to stop until your face looks all twisted up. Chucky could use the power of Dembala to like smite her or something, but she's already dead. Like, what is that going to do? I think I need to give it to Samara. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but I do feel like ultimately they would be kind of at a draw because Chucky can just hop into another doll. He's not gonna die either. But I'm just gonna say Samara for now to save us time. Michael Myers versus Pearl. That is something I'd like to see, let me tell you. Pearl with her axe would easily do a lot of damage to Michael, but I think that she's a little bit too erratic. I think that there would be a moment where she would slip up and Michael would take advantage, because Michael is another one, he's not going to stop. It doesn't matter how much you beat him up. It would be a good fight though. I think it would be a really good face-off. Leatherface versus Jigsaw. I fear that Jigsaw would probably beat almost everyone on this list. We're gonna see when it comes down to it. John Kramer is just too smart. Like, he's not gonna be taken down by a big brute with a chainsaw. That's just not gonna happen to my boy, not to John. That's an easy one to give to Jigsaw. Next up, we have Norman Bates versus Hannibal Lecter. Those are both intelligent individuals. However, Norman Bates, he is a little bit not living in this reality, is he? Hannibal Lecter would probably wipe the floor with him. Somebody has to say it. Okay. He would literally use the bones of his mother to make a delicious broth or something. And then he'd throw chunks of Norman into it. Like, he's just too smart. He might be another one that is gonna sweep the field here. Next up, we have Ghostface and we have Annie Wilkes from Misery. Which Ghostface are we talking about? Because Ghostface used to be lanky and clumsy, and then Max Leferrier in Scream 6 was doing super badass stunt work and making them look very coordinated and athletic. So it really just depends, because I do think that almost any Ghostface would be able to outrun Annie. Annie would put up a fight, but at the end of the day, most of the Ghostfaces would get a jump on her. Also because so many of them use guns, and that's like slasher movie cheating. But I gotta take that into account. This is editing Kylie having to jump in here. Honestly, I don't really know what the fuck I was talking about. Annie Wilkes also uses a gun, and she knows how to handle that thing. She also is smarter than majority of Ghostfaces. Pretty much almost all of them, actually, because even the smartest Ghostfaces are very egocentric, and Annie doesn't have that problem at all. She is brutal, let me tell you. If it was like a home invasion type situation with Annie in her home and Ghostface coming after her, she would lay waste to them, absolutely. Luckily though, as this bracket thing turned out, that doesn't really matter, me changing my opinion here, but just know that it has changed. On the right, who moves on to the next round? We've got Freddy Krueger, Jack Torrance, Carrie, Samara Morgan, Michael Myers, Jigsaw, Hannibal Lecter, and Ghostface. Let's move back over to the left and we will move on to the second round. Jason Voorhees versus Candyman. I feel like I'm gonna get way too lost in the weeds with all the logic here, and I don't want to do that. It's just not really fair because Candyman has the paranormal jump on Jason Voorhees. I don't think Jason can really kill Candyman. He certainly can't outsmart him or outsmart the curse. So I'm gonna have to give it to Candyman. Next up, Pinhead versus this versus the Xenomorph. That is a hilarious mashup. Once again, with the supernatural element, is this even a fair question? I don't know. Realistically, the alien could definitely tear them all up, but then I feel like they would just respawn into whatever dimension they came from. So that's really tough. On the right side, I was thinking so much about how these villains would like use their smarts to wipe out everyone, but now I fear that the supernatural villains are going to be taking it. I guess I have to say Pinhead. Oh my god, just because like I don't think that he can really die while the alien definitely can. And they can throw all their crazy hooks and stuff into the alien and just pull it apart. Next up, Dracula versus zombies. This one's kind of dumb. Am I really going to say zombies? Because Dracula / Nosferatu, they have the power of compulsion, right? But zombies, their brains don't work anymore. Their brains have turned to goop or whatever, or they're dead. I don't think that zombies could be compelled. I guess maybe it depends which universe we're living in. Maybe in like Return of the Living Dead, maybe, but in most cases, definitely not. And once again, is it going to be Dracula versus one zombie? In that case, my money would probably be on Dracula. But if it's a horde, and this says zombies, plural, and they always travel together, I'm gonna have to give it to the zombies. Oh my god. Moving on to Invisible Man versus Frankenstein. I would have to once again give it to the Invisible Man because he's invisible. Frankenstein, he's not that smart. In the book he is, but the movie adaptations have never really been that kind to him in terms of like his intelligence. I mean, granted, there are so many adaptations out there. I have not seen them all. I do think he will be given intelligence in Del Toro's upcoming adaptation. I'm very excited about that. But for the most part, I'm speaking generally in terms of his representation, the Invisible Man is gonna have to take it. Brains over brawn. I've been saying this. All right, so who has moved on? Candyman, Pinhead, zombies, unbelievable that, and the Invisible Man. Going back to the right side, now we've got Freddy Krueger versus Jack Torrance. Freddy Krueger's gonna take that easily. With Freddy Krueger, yes, the way to defeat him is kind of fundamentally similar to Pennywise, but I do think you have to be a lot smarter because literally children can can defeat Pennywise once they realize that they just shouldn't be scared. Freddy Krueger, it's more of a process. And I don't think that Jack in his delirium could consciously be like, I take back my power from you, Freddy Krueger. He's already off his rocker. So imagine Freddy Krueger starts coming into his dreams. Jack Torrance would probably himself at that point. Now, Carrie versus Samara Morgan. This is tough. Does her telekinesis work on supernatural beings? Can you throw a ghost across a room? Those are two of my favorite girls. God damn it, the paranormal element. It's whipping my ass again. I do think that when Samara is conjured, if you will, she does inhabit sort of a physical presence. How long Carrie could keep her off of her, I don't know, because that probably exhausts a lot of mental energy using her powers. And Samara, she never stops, you know? So even if Carrie could sort of push her across the room and crush her back into the TV from where she came, she would just keep coming, you know? She doesn't stop. I have to give it to Samara. Okay, Michael Myers versus Jigsaw. Some of you are gonna be mad at me, but it needs to be said that Jigsaw, I think, would successfully kill Michael Myers. His whole thing is trapping people, and Michael is not that intelligent. I know that David Gordon Green gave us a little bit more of an intelligent Michael Myers, but even with just that shred more of brain function going on, he still is just like a purely instinctual being. Even in Halloween Kills, an angry mob was able to trap him in like the circle of people. So John Kramer would do that, but instead of using a bunch of dumbass idiots, he would have a very elaborate trap set up. So yeah, Jigsaw. Hannibal Lecter versus Ghostface. As soon as all the characters of Scream are introduced, Hannibal Lecter has figured out who Ghostface is. He knows immediately. He's so smart. He's so in tune with people. He can basically read their minds. There is not a single Ghostface in the franchise that could ever have the jump on a Mr. Hannibal Lecter. So moving on to the next round, we have Freddy Krueger, Samara Morgan, Jigsaw, and Hannibal Lecter. Oh, that's gonna be interesting. But back to the left. Candyman versus Pinhead. Oh, brother. They've got a similar deal going on, don't they? Ultimately, look, I haven't seen the sequels or slash prequels of Candyman, and I'm sorry for that. I also haven't seen majority of the Hellraiser franchise because I've been working my way up to that, okay? I don't really want to do it. So with my limited understanding of, let's just say, the first movies of the franchises, Candyman has a little bit more of a human paranormal thing going on. Not that he's a ghost, because it is a curse kind of a thing, but he has human origins, whereas Pinhead and his gang, they come from an alternate dimension. So I'm gonna have to say Pinhead. I'm gonna say Pinhead, and I'm not gonna keep elaborating because I'm not trying to dig myself into any kind of hole. Now, zombies versus the Invisible Man. Well, if he's invisible, then they probably won't get to him. Like, the Invisible Man, he's smart enough to survive the zombie apocalypse, for one, and then also survive long enough for, you know, humanity's return and the eventual eradication of the zombies. In hand-to-hand combat, that's a different thing, but if they can't see him, then he has a much better chance of getting away. I know that a lot of zombies operate based on sound, but he is also very light-footed. Maybe not Kevin Bacon's Invisible Man from, like, that came out in, like, 2000 or something? Whatever, that horrid remake. Maybe not him. I don't know. Once again, I can't get Lee Whannell's version out of my mind, so that's what I'm going off of. You can go off of something else if you want to. I'm gonna say The Invisible Man. The two finalists from the left side, we've got Pinhead versus The Invisible Man, but we'll come back to that. On the right side, we now have Freddy Krueger versus Samara Morgan. I don't think that Samara Morgan can really go after Freddy Krueger because he doesn't exist on this plane. But then I also don't know if Freddy can go after Samara because she also doesn't exist on this plane. And that's how they both operate. How would they duel? I feel like because Samara is a silent killer and Freddy likes to play with his food, he could probably do something psychologically to throw her off her game and get her to hesitate for even just a second. And then his knife fingers would be in her. I don't know. Look, I don't know how it works. I'm not gonna get into all the weeds of the logic there with how they can't die and how they operate. I'm gonna give it to Freddy Krueger, okay? Now, Hannibal Lecter versus Jigsaw. Are you kidding me? You're making my favorite boys fight each other, when in reality, I think that they might kind of be best friends. They're both very into social contracts, you know, politeness. God damn, I think Hannibal Lecter probably has a slightly higher IQ than John Kramer. John Kramer operates more based on revenge and stuff. And I mean, he's like an engineer, right? So he's very, very smart. Hannibal Lecter is a doctor. He is a psychologist. He is also extremely cultured. He's traveled the world, you know. I do think he has the one up on John Kramer. And he would survive Jigsaw's traps. I know that with certainty. So I'm gonna give it to Hannibal Lecter. In the second to last round, from the right side, we are gonna have Freddy Krueger versus Hannibal Lecter. But going back to the right side, where we now have Pinhead versus the Invisible Man. I think I gotta give it to Pinhead here. The Invisible Man is very smart, but the modern character is this like billionaire scientist. He's also an extreme abuser. He is like addicted to power, and I do think that he would try it with Pinhead and he would take it too far, just like Frank did, because he would get overzealous. He would have too much of an ego about it, and then Pinhead would eat him for lunch. Final farewell to the Invisible Man. You made it far, but our left side finalist is Pinhead. Now, Freddy Krueger versus Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter would have read all the literature already on whatever type of demon Freddy is before he even entered a single dream. So when it would be happening, he would be like, right, yes, you thought that you could try this with me, Mr. Fredward, and he would know how to vanquish him. I just feel certain of that. Nobody is gonna rock Hannibal Lecter, okay? He is always 12 steps ahead in the game of chess, in the game of life. So our right side finalist shall be Hannibal Lecter. Now, Hannibal Lecter versus Pinhead, I fear we have an intellectual match to end them all. Hannibal Lecter does have an ego, though. And isn't that all of our downfalls? But once again, would he have read the literature? He would know how to solve the box immediately, right? And he probably would try to conjure them on purpose. So he would have the knowledge to defeat them prior, but then would he push it too far because of his ego? God, that's a tough question. You know what? If Kirsty can survive Pinhead, then I think Hannibal Lecter can too. Wow, could you even believe the Smarty beating the paranormal entity after all to end it all? Do I really think that Hannibal Lecter is the most powerful movie villain on this list? Okay, to be fair, I do think that Carrie obviously could take out Hannibal Lecter, so could Pazuzu probably. Although Hannibal probably knows how to exorcise demons. Zombies would probably take out Hannibal Lecter, but you know, once again, he also would like be the survivalist, so it just depends on the scenario. Could Hannibal Lecter outswim the shark from Jaws? I don't know. But the way things are laid out here, I feel comfortable with my choices. Now, really quickly, I say that we go through and we choose my favorite within this bracket as well. I think next time I do this, I might want to choose like the weakest horror movie villain. And then also I would do it based on if I'm the final girl and who I'm having to fight, like who I would be more likely to kill. So let me know if you're interested in me doing that for next time. But let's figure out my fave based on these brackets. Jason Voorhees versus The Fly. I gotta say Jason Voorhees. I'm not crazy on Friday the 13th, but there are some movies in that franchise that I absolutely adore. And The Fly, it's a good movie, but also like, I don't know, as a villain, he's not even really that much of a villain. You know what I'm talking about. The Thing versus Candyman. I gotta say The Thing. I love the grotesque body horror. I even love the 2011 remake. I say remake if you haven't seen it, but if you know, you know. So I have to say The Thing. Pinhead versus Babadook. Come on. It's Pinhead. Oh, I love Hellraiser to death. The Xenomorph versus the worms in Tremors. I have to say the Xenomorph. I also am so big on the Alien franchise. Dracula versus the Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's The Creature for me. I grew up on that movie and it's just such a sweet and sad tale. Zombies versus Jaws. I don't think... Okay, maybe the only zombie movie I've seen that I could potentially like more than Jaws is Return of the Living Dead. I do overall, I guess there are more zombie movies that I like than shark movies, but as villains, I'm gonna say zombies. They're just more diverse. Wolfman versus Invisible Man. Okay, so I haven't seen the original Invisible Man, so I would have to say Wolfman from 1941. But then if we're talking the modern interpretations, then obviously it's gonna gonna be Invisible Man, so that's what I'm gonna say. Frankenstein versus the Mummy, Frankenstein. I love the Frankenstein monster. I hold so much space for the Frankenstein monster. Jason Voorhees versus The Thing. I'm gonna say The Thing. It's just a more interesting concept overall. Like, I could rewatch The Thing a million times, whereas sometimes Jason can kinda get old. Don't come for me. Now, Pinhead versus the Xenomorph. Conceptually, I love them both so much. I love the cosmic horror feeling of Pinhead, but then I also love sci-fi so much. This one's really hard. Overall, I think I have to say Xenomorph. Maybe that'll change when I get further down the line with the Hellraiser franchise. I don't know. I think the Xenomorph just has more badass moments. Now, Zombies versus Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's the Creature. Once again, I just feel so endeared to the Creature. I just love him. Frankenstein versus Invisible Man. Oh god. That one is like concept versus my heart. I think I have to say Frankenstein. I do. I'm leading with my heart today. On the right side, Freddy Krueger versus Damien. Easily Freddy Krueger. I've only seen the first Omen and then the first Omen, in which Damien is not present. So I gotta say Freddy. You know, he's got the whole franchise. Pennywise versus Jack Torrance. This one's hard because the movie and the book offer really different perspectives on Jack Torrance, so I really appreciate his character, but Pennywise is just more fun. I love Pennywise. Both versions of it are really comforting to me as well, so I love Pennywise. Pazuzu versus Carrie. Please, it's Carrie so easily. Don't need to elaborate. Chucky versus Samara. Now, this is where you're pissing me off. How dare you do this to me, actually? You know what? The Ring is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. I think it'll forever be in my top 10, but I love Chucky so goddamn much, and it's been way too long since I've done a watch of the entire franchise. I love that funny little bastard. Michael Myers versus Pearl. It is so easily Michael Myers. Pearl frustrates me. Like, she's fun, and it's a great performance and everything, but that's so easily Michael. Halloween might be my favorite horror franchise of all time. Leatherface and Jigsaw. It's so easily Jigsaw. That's not even funny. Norman Bates versus Hannibal Lecter. Same thing. It's so easily Hannibal Lecter. I love me a smart villain because I love moral gray areas. I never see anything in black and white personally, and so I love to see villains that reflect that. Now, Ghostface versus Annie Wilkes. This isn't really fair because Ghostface is so many different people, and some Ghostfaces I would definitely choose Annie Wilkes over, but the majority of them I love as characters more than Annie Wilkes. So I have to say Ghostface. So we've got Freddy, Pennywise, Carrie, Chucky, Michael Myers, Jigsaw, Hannibal, and Ghostface. Moving on. I'm gonna do like 2 rounds each on each side before we get to the final face-off. So sticking with these guys, we've got Freddy Krueger versus Pennywise. Oh, that one is really, really hard. Those are 2 of my favorite silly little guys. It's so hard for me to say if I'm more of a nightmare girly or more of an it girly. It's also hard to say because there is so much more nightmare content out there than it content. So I feel inclined to say Freddy, but the overall quality of the it franchise, I'm like, also, whose powers do I prefer and everything, you know? I think I would say Pennywise. This is something else that I know you don't want to hear, but I do tend to prefer the performance of Bill Skarsgård. So we're gonna go with Pennywise. Now, Carrie versus Chucky. I love Chucky so much, but leading with my heart once again, I gotta be a girls here, okay? I have to choose Carrie because you know what? She just didn't deserve any of that. She didn't deserve anything about her circumstances. Carrie is baby girl to me. So that's that. Now we've got Michael Myers versus Jigsaw, and I love John Kramer. I much prefer the traps. I feel inclined to say Jigsaw, but at the same time, it's like, what horror franchise do I revisit every single year without fail? And that's Halloween. There's just so much more simple comfort in the Halloween franchise to me. I love how much the Saw franchise intellectually challenges me, and so I don't know, I gravitate to both of them for very different reasons. In terms of what's easy and what's comfy, I think I have to say Michael. I love that big brute. Love the way he kills. He's so good at it. Because the question is not like, what kills do I prefer? The Halloween kills or the Saw kills? Because that would easily go to Saw. We're talking about the villains themselves, you know? Hannibal Lecter or Ghostface, that is really easily Hannibal Lecter. He's one of my faves of all time. Like, can you not tell? Round 3, we have facing off Pennywise, Carrie, Michael, and Hannibal. But let's venture back to that left side. The Thing versus the Xenomorphs. Again, it's a quality versus quantity kind of thing because the Alien franchise is so much bigger. And also, the Xenomorph, is that strictly when it's in the classic Alien form? This is not including the face huggers or the crazy demon baby spawns that come out. I don't actually know. Even in that case, I think that I have to give it to the Xenomorph. I love the thing to death, but I think I am more of a classic monster kind of girly. I love high concept stuff, but you know, growing up on all the 50s sci-fi fun, that's what I gravitate towards. So I'm gonna say the Xenomorph. Creature from the Black Lagoon versus Frankenstein. This is where it gets really, really excruciating because I grew up on Creature, but in the past couple years, I finally read the Frankenstein book. I have finally watched a lot of the Frankenstein films, and I love all the themes that surround Frankenstein's monster. But if we're talking strictly about the monster themselves and like the design even, gosh, they both, my heart is so full for both of them. I think I have to say Frankenstein. I do. But this is another like quantity thing where I just consumed a lot more about Frankenstein than I have from the Creature. But that is what it is. It is what it is. So finally, we're gonna have the Xenomorph versus Frankenstein's monster. And to be honest, my finalist on the left side, it's gonna be the Xenomorph. It's gonna be the Xenomorph. It's so badass. I love the alien so much. The way it can kill you from so many different angles and everything. Now I'm leading with cold blood. I'm not leading with my heart anymore on that one. So there's our left side finalist. Back to the right side. Pennywise versus Carrie. Again, conceptually, Pennywise is just so badass. I think that he just is a lot more interesting to me. So that's why I'm gonna choose Pennywise here. Oh, Carrie, I'm so sorry. And then Michael Myers versus Hannibal. Oh my god. Look, I love the comforts of Michael Myers, and I know that I chose him over Jigsaw because of that. But the amount that I am intellectually stimulated by Hannibal Lecter and the moral issues that he brings up and the philosophies that he explores outweighs the comfort that I feel from Michael Myers, I think. So I have to go with Hannibal. Now, Hannibal versus Pennywise, for the same reason, I have to say Hannibal. Oh my gosh, is Hannibal gonna win the whole thing on both accounts? The Xenomorph versus Hannibal. Who is it going to be? Well, what do I rewatch more? What do I have more fun with overall? In that case, I would say the Xenomorph. Am I just a sci-fi girly at heart? Or could all the hours I spent with Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal win me over? Well, given that there are literally zero stakes to this and it doesn't really matter, I should just go ahead and make my choice. Can I cheat and say that if we take into account like all the different forms of the alien, then I would definitely choose the alien? Because like Prometheus, hello? The different versions of the face huggers. I'm all about that, and I would absolutely choose the Xenomorph. But if it is just the Xenomorph, then I would have to say Hannibal. So maybe I'll let you guys decide for me. What do you think? Who is my ultimate fave based on everything that I've said? And who's yours? How did the brackets end up looking for you? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. I'm really excited to keep talking about this. We're getting back to my roots. We're just talking about good classic horror, and I'm stoked. This is the direction I think that I want to go, at least for the time being. So did you enjoy? Clicking the thumbs up is definitely the best way to let me know, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already. If you're interested in physical media, you should check out my second channel. That's where I talk about all things physical media. I also post spooky vlogs. I recently went to the Winchester Mystery House. That was awesome. And I also have a Patreon where, depending on which tier you join, you get a bonus video every single week. So check all of that out. Everything is linked down below. Also, be a dear. Consider donating to my upcoming short film Famished. I'm gonna be fundraising for like all the rest of the year, so you have time, but worth looking into. You get special thanks in the credits. You can check out my last short film to kind of see how that works. That'll do it for today though. More than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video and that I catch you in the next one. Bye.